Okay, cool. Today is Monday, February 10th, and we're going to be delving into HTML a little bit more. Something I want to note before we get started today, if you are on the blog and you don't see this little bar at the top, I noticed earlier it was like disappearing for me. If that ever happens to you and you need to like make a post or anything, all you got to do is edit your URL at the top of the screen and get it down to gd.newpaltz.edu/ whatever the class is. Like for us, it's dweb s25. After the slash, if you add wp-admin, that will let you into the part where you can make a post. If that black bar is ever missing from the top. Wushin had warned me that was going on today in basic graphic design and causing chaos. So if you're ever missing that bar, that's all you got to do. So if that comes up for you today at all, that's your path towards being able to see what's going on. Today we're focused on more stuff with coding. We're going to be talking more about HTML tags. In the past, we've discussed a little bit about headings and paragraphs. And then last time we were here doing HTML page anatomy. We talked a little bit about semantic HTML. But I'm going to go over some other HTML tags. Some of you got a little bit ahead with it and already tried out an image. I'm going to go over how to do an image. And then I'm also going to do a quick demo on adding an embed, which is like a YouTube video or Spotify playlist, or I'll show Google My Maps and how to make a custom map on there and embed it, because I think some of you might have topics where you want to do that. So that would be fun. And then I'm going to go over HTML pages and links, because typically HTML pages, like websites, are typically more than one page. And we're going to go over like making multiple HTML files and like how to link between them, because that's like actually how a website works. And then for those of you who have your content inventory in a pretty good place, or you know kind of an idea of like what you want to actually put in your site, we're going to try out starting to put some content on your pages and see what it looks like inherently. I think getting an idea of how your content wants to exist on the page will help guide your design process a little bit. I think it helps to see it. So that's going to be like what our main objective is here. On your own, whether during class time or during the week, you're going to read these 3 pages within HTML for People. You guys have been in them before. They're not super long or complicated or horrible or anything. And honestly, they're just going to be reinforcing things that I'm already going over. HTML for People, as we proceed into these chapters, are going to be doing a lot of demo-based stuff around a personal website. You can follow along and make your own files following what Blake's doing in the book if you want to, but you do not have to, because it's very related to what we're doing in class, and what we're doing in class relates to it plenty. But if you are someone who really likes to follow along, feel free. I'm just not requiring it. And then we're going to kind of come out of today with a couple key objectives. First one being, make sure you're caught up on previous week's work. I know some people are sick and stuff, so there's probably just some things that will need to be caught up on, or even people who are here, just life is crazy. Make sure that you go back and you have your personas and your sitemap. And like, make sure you start your content inventory if you haven't already. Get some stuff in there. Start thinking about what's actually going on your site. So prioritize, make sure you are caught up. Then for those of you who started making a website with like your page anatomy set up for the actual site you're doing as your project, you can continue working on that for this. But you're going to start putting your content in and try coding it in HTML based off what you have in your content inventory. And then, like we've done every other week, you make a blog post and put up a link to your work so far on it. Does that make sense to everybody? Great. Okay, so let's do some HTML stuff. I have up the HTML page I was working on last time, and we went over some stuff a little bit in terms of like heading levels and paragraphs. We even looked at links a little bit when we were looking at the nav, but if you remember, we were just putting the like little placeholder into the href so that it would do the like color styling for the link and add the interactivity. But we're gonna make them actually work, so that'll be exciting. Just want to make sure I'm covering everything I need to. Headings, paragraphs, lists, images, embeds. Okay, I like that plan. Cool. So before I jump right into this, we're just going to review what we've learned so far really quick. Our HTML file has a couple key areas. We have our HTML tag that wraps the entire website. We open the HTML page at the very beginning. We close it at the very end. Inside our HTML tag, we have two main tags. One is the head, one is the body. Does anyone remember what's different about the head and the body? Yeah, the head's like loading assets. Yeah. It's giving the browser information like the favicon, like what goes in the tab at the top, what would show up if you got a Google result of your website, like all that kind of information. Later on, we'll load our font files there. We load our style sheet there. The things you actually see on the screen are inside the body. So the head is kind of like the brain. You don't actually see somebody's brain. You just see what it does. And the body is like what you physically can see on the webpage. In there, we went over some what are called landmark elements in semantic HTML. Header, which very often contains your nav. It's all the content at the top of your page. Typically, it's the content that's at the top of every page on your website. Probably has your logo, probably has some links to the other pages in your website. Our main is the content that's unique to that particular web page. And then the footer is just like the header, except for it's the stuff that goes to the bottom. This all ringing a bell? Cool. We have gone over a little bit with headings, H1, H2, etc. Now, those numbers that come with our heading elements, those are actually used by the browser and by a lot of assistive technologies and like site crawlers. Google search engine site crawlers will use it. AI will use it when it crawls your website to kind of understand its structure. Headings play a very big role in how non-human users interpret your website. So I'm going to open my website in my browser to kind of show you some stuff to help understand this a little better. I just need to remember where I put, I put it in my sites directory. That was awesome. So I want to open my site in Google Chrome. So I'm going to open it in Finder, and I'm just going to control click on it and say open with Google Chrome. Friendly reminder, don't open it in Safari because it'll be harder to use DevTools, and DevTools are our friend. So I have my little demo website from last time here. I got my header with some navigation links. I got an H1, I got an H2, and I got some paragraph text. I do believe I have this zoomed in quite a bit right now. I'm going to zoom it out. We can still see it well enough. Yeah. So as of right now, I have two headings on my page. And if you notice, they're a little bit different in size. They should be, maybe they're not. Simple.css has its own styling for stuff. Let's take a look at what it's doing. Maybe I'll add another heading level in. Sure, they get smaller. Okay, yeah, so H2 and H3 get smaller from each other proceeding down. HTML by default, H1 is bigger than H2. I don't know why simple CSS has them be either the same size or very similar size, but it does. Let's check that out actually. What's happening here? Can I turn on what font in here? Did what font die and I didn't even know? I guess it did. Okay, whatever. I'm actually going into a tool called the Accessible Name Document Inspector, and it is a pretty useful tool for seeing how a screen reader would interpret a web page. And it has one tool in particular I really like called Structures, and it lets me look at like a little document outline of my headers, and like will make a little diagram for me on the page. So right now I have an H1, and that's telling the browser this is the most important heading on the page. Most likely you'll have only one H1 on your page. It should be your page's title. So like if it's your about page, you should have a big H1 at the top of the page that says about. It helps a computer or a person on assistive technology, or even just a typical user with their eyes, know where they are, what's happening. They see about the name of the page and they're like, word, I know where I'm at. Awesome. In fact, it might even be more logical for me to have my H1 be inside of my header element. And that might even help further. So like it's up there with my navigational stuff. And I might have many H2s and many H3s in my page. It depends on the structure of my document. You should use headers sequentially. So things that are of the same heading level are probably of similar importance in your overall document outline, which is why if you're working in like Google Docs or Word and making your content inventory there, like you can utilize those heading 1, heading 2, and that document outline in the sidebar, like I talked about last time. And your HTML document outline should probably come out pretty similarly. Right now, I'm using an H1 once, an H2 once, and an H3 once. That's probably not how I would actually like function in the world. A more realistic document structure might be, so H2, I might be like types or places to roller skate. And then I might have a paragraph. There are many places to roller skate. And then I might have kind of like I was showing you guys that sample website from last time. I'm gonna need 3 H3s. I'm gonna have rinks. I'm gonna have skate parks. And I'll do trails. And then maybe underneath those, I'll have skate time. I'll have hello. It's okay. We're just getting started with the HTML demo and I have it recording, so you can go back and play it back later. Underneath the each heading, you're putting the information that corresponds to that heading. So you'll see for my rinks, I have a paragraph element underneath it that is listing some of the rinks I have on my website. Under skate parks, I'm going to list some skate parks because in the overall document outline, this paragraph text will get associated with the header that it is immediately below. Then trails, Empire Trail. Okay. So now I've added some content under my headers and kind of have a more hashed out like document outline structure. See, I got like my H2 that's talking about places to roller skate. Here's a paragraph kind of describing what information is going to follow it. And then I have some smaller headings. They're all of the same information hierarchy level. And then I have information that goes under them. And so then when I go into my structures and I look at my outline, you'll see I have my H1 that's like my H1 describing my page, my whole website, whatever I'm using it for. I have my H2 that's my places to roller skate. And then the 3 headings underneath it are all places to roller skate. So like if I'm going to break out, if I want to add another section with different content, I want to go back to an H2 because I want to do stuff that's of similar hierarchy at the same heading level. You can have multiple H2s, multiple H3s, multiple H4s, whatever you want. The one thing you should only have one of is H1s. Like you should not have like many H1s on a page. And that's for actually more than anything else, search engine optimization purposes. Like when Google is looking through your site and seeing if it's good to put up in the search results for something, it's going to look for H1s to figure out what the site is actually about. And then it will look for H2s, but if you're matching more of the keywords that it's looking for in the H1, it'll prioritize you over someone else. Yeah. If you overuse them, they'll lose their importance. And like sometimes some search engine crawlers will only look at the first one. And so the general belief is that H1 is really good to reserve just for your page title. Also with your headings, making sure that they're not insanely long. So like if you notice these, all of my headings are only like a couple of words or one word, and they're describing what's happening within them. If you just like make your headings entire sentences, that's not helpful. Because if we think about another non-human user, which is a screen reader, screen reader users will often use them to navigate through a page and find the part of the page they need without having to have the entire page read out to them by skipping around by the headings on the page. And so that helps somebody who's using a screen reader find their way around. Similarly, how many of you hit a web page and then read every single thing in it in order to find the part of the page you're looking for? Nobody does that. Especially in our day and age and our younger generations, like we skim. And so when you set up headings that are concise and describe what's underneath it, it makes it a lot easier for people who use the web the way millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, etc. use the web. It's aligning to the way our brains work a little bit better. And also in particular, there's a lot of research backing that it's really helpful for people that have cognitive disabilities like ADHD to kind of find where they need to be in a web page and not get totally lost. And so like remembering to leverage headings and leveraging them correctly is really important in creating a good web page experience, even though it is just a static content web page. Like sometimes I think it's hard to think about web design as like user experience. I'm just showing some information, but the way you approach it does matter. So headings, you can go all the way out to heading 6 and you'll see the heading will get smaller by default as you go out to heading 6. You'll be able to, in your styling, when we get to CSS, change the font size of the headings if you so choose to. They're not like set in stone what the font sizes are. But in general, it's a good rule of thumb that your lower number headings are bigger than your higher number headings. Like H6 should be smaller than H2 by a good bit. Does that make sense? Cool. And so they work pretty similarly to most tags. You have an opening tag that has your H1, your H2, H3, etc. in it. You have a closing tag after you put your text in. It's a good idea. You can either, I'm doing this in a way where I'm going onto a new line and indenting my header text. Some people don't like to do that. They like to just do it all in one line, which is totally fine. That's valid syntax as well. Not a problem. But you might find that if you utilize the thing where you control click and say format document, except for mine seems to be broken, yours aren't, it might kick it onto its own line and then do it like that. Both work though. The indentation stuff in HTML is not necessarily like make or break. Like your webpage will absolutely still work if you use crazy indentation, but it's more about like for you editing it and like reading it, it helps a lot if you keep the syntax clean and you're using the indentation and stuff right. So while I was doing those headings, I was adding in this other element quite a bit, the paragraph element. Oh, wait, before I talk about paragraph element, I want to say one more thing. There's no such thing as an H7 or an H8 or an H9. It stops at 6. And frankly, for your intents and purposes, I'd be surprised if you went past H4. You probably don't have 6 levels deep of content hierarchy. Yeah, you can. Yeah, no problem at all. Feel free to do that. Like your homework is going to be to start adding content and using these tags to your site that you set up. At this point, I would say it's probably smart to set up the like page for your actual project. If you were making a side like silly one, I don't know if you were. It's probably a good time at this point to switch it over. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, cool. Good question. So yeah, no such thing as H7. It stops at that point, and I'd be surprised if you actually needed to use an H6. So just wanted to make sure I said that. And I have in the past seen students try doing like every time they added a header, like incrementing it because they didn't understand that it was like giving semantic hierarchy to the heading. If everything's of the same level of importance, like you saw, I have multiple H3s in a row. That's allowed. Do not, just because there's the third header you put on the page doesn't mean it's an H3. And if you're ever not sure, feel free to ask. I'm happy to help you figure out your HTML structure for your headings. So this other tag you see me use quite a bit with the P. This is the tag you're going to use anytime you're putting like long form text or even just like a sentence, or even just if you have text you don't really know what tag it should be in, the paragraph tag is your friend. You'll notice the paragraph tag does not show up in the document outline. It's just like text that's readable on the page. If you have long text, I'm gonna actually just show this using a lorem ipsum generator. Sure. Give me 3 paragraphs. Great. So let's say you have a lot of text and it's like kind of long, it's multiple paragraphs, or like you at some point will need to go to a new line. There's a couple of ways to do that. So I'm going to take this text I want to use. I'm going to go back over to VS Code and I'm going to paste my text right here inside of this paragraph element and I'm going to save it. We're going to see what it does. So like I've put a lot of text here. I've made a new line. I've put a lot of text here. I've made a new line. We're going to this like giant goblin paragraph that is a pain. And the way that you avoid that is by using multiple paragraph elements. So like instead of this whole situation, I'm going to, after my first paragraph, I don't know why it all pasted to one line like this, but whatever. I'm going to put /p to close it. And then when I want my next paragraph to start, I'm going to put another paragraph element. And then I'm going to make sure I close it. And then I'm going to add a paragraph element. And then I already have a closing tag there. And then I'm going to format my document because it's crazy. Why won't it work to format my document? Okay, there we go. So for you, when you hit format document, it will do that. I don't like, I have multiple extensions installed on my VS Code and I think they're just competing. So if it's ever not working for you, I don't know why you guys would be in this situation. If you hit format document with, and then click on HTML language features, that will fix all your indentation. And if you notice, it even like brought all my paragraph text within view for me and not had it like scrolling out infinitely. So like the indentation is not like going to stop it from working, but it's more about you being able to read the file and it not being crazy. The browser's gonna do what it wants with it. It's a good question. So like you see now that I put each paragraph in its own paragraph tag, it like adds the proper amount of space in between them. That's even true though if your text is not very long. Like let's say I just wanted to list these 3 without having it be long and making like literal paragraphs, like even if I just want to go to a new line. Great, thank you. Oh my God, why you keep making me paragraph tags? Sometimes the auto closing thing is really annoying for the record. So that right now my indentation on that's crazy. I'm just going to do format document with, and then I'll make a nice little list for me. And then if I refresh my page, if I saved it, that would help. I'm gonna refresh my page and then see it'll still like do the new line thing. Now you might be wondering, okay, yeah, but what if I want to go to a new line and not create that extra space? Like I just want to do what would be what's a soft return, if you will. For that, HTML does have a feature called line break. So like, let's say for some weird reason, I want to break Hyde Park Roller Magic up into 2 lines. I can add this tag called a line break. And this is another rare example of a self-closing tag. So I can do BR/ and leave it. Like that's a complete tag. All that does is it tells it to go to a new line and not add space. And so that, see how that amount of space, that's a line break there versus going to a new paragraph. That's what you do if you want to like arbitrarily do it. Now, if you're trying to use the line break because you don't like how much space is getting made by the paragraphs, don't do that. Like if they literally are separate paragraphs, we can adjust the styling later to make that gap between paragraphs the gap you want. Don't over rely on the break. It's kind of there just as a backup for like weird scenarios, but I do like to mention that it's there. So that's line break and paragraph. There's another form of an HTML tag that I'd like to show you. that would be more appropriate for what I've done here, actually. Because right now I have like a small list of phrases, and semantically putting them in paragraphs is not really my best option. My best option is to leverage using a list element. So we have access to two forms of a list element. We have an ordered list if we want to do numbers, like a numbered list, or an unordered list that we can use if we want to do bullet points. And so the way that works is I first will tell it with an HTML tag, I want to make a list. So I have two options here. I'm going to do a numbered list first and then switch it to an unordered list. So I'll start off by saying OL stands for ordered list, meaning it's going to put numbers. So I got my OL and then it's given me a /OL, and I just need to put that at the end. So my list should be inside of my list tags. Now, instead of using paragraph elements, I'm going to use what's called a list item element. Whoever came up with the protocol for this did a much better job coming up with HTML tags, because a list item is LI. OL is ordered list item, LI. Unordered list is UL, unordered list. They really ate with this. They're very organized of them. So LI, and look, VS Code will be very kind to you. And when you change the tag that something is in, it'll change the closing tag too. And so I want to get rid of this line break. I don't actually need that. And so now I have my ordered list and I have my list item elements in it. I'm just going to have that indent it for me. And that would be good semantics, good syntax for that. And I'll refresh my page and it will now have it as a very handsome numbered list for me. But I actually don't know why I have that as a numbered list, because I'm not counting them. Like, I feel like a bulleted list would be more appropriate here. But the cool thing about using list elements in HTML is if you change your mind about the kind of list it is, all you have to do is change the wrapping element and not the contents within it. So the list item pattern will still work no matter what kind of list you use. So if I refresh the page now they're bullet points. What's up? Yes, you can do custom bullet points in your HTML. And see, part of the reason why I'm showing you all this stuff now is so you can think about it as you're designing. So totally fine to ask questions about them. So yeah, no, you can leverage the LI element, the list item elements in an unordered list, and then in your CSS, change what the bullet points are to be like a custom image or an emoji or whatever. Does anyone else have any questions about this?
Like, if it's a consistent bullet point, can they see like a different symbol, or is it one?
Yeah, I'll go into it more later, but in CSS, you can like choose like pick the first one out of every group of items and do this with it, and like grab you can even do it like every odd and even, or like every first child, second child, third child. So yeah, to answer your question, yes. Yeah, you're just like, the point of this is actually to get the gears in your brain turning. And so when we get to the part where we're designing, you guys know everything that this can actually do and run with it. So great question. Any other questions about paragraphs, headings, lists? I think I can get stuff about lists to show up in here. Yeah, no, it'll get read as a list by a screen reader. So like, it'll recognize that it is list items. And so like anytime we have like little groups of items, like actually back in the day before they gave us the nav element, we used to always put our navigations in ULs. And sometimes people still do it, like it's not wrong. Any other questions before we move on to more exciting things? Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is show you how to do an image. And some of you already know about how to do an image, but not all of you do yet. So start off, first I gotta get an image I want to use. So I'll probably just go on Pexels, because I was showing you guys that last time as a place you could get an image. So like if I wanted to have a roller skate, I could be like, those are roller blades, but they're pretty cool. So I can download the image. Okay, it's downloaded. Then once it's downloaded, I gotta go receive the image I've downloaded. I make sure this is a list and that I have it set to date modified, wrong way. downloads. Whoops, there we go. So there's my image, but I got to give it a name that I actually don't mind typing out because I don't want to have to type out 3779699.jpg. That's annoying. So I'm just going to say rollerblades.jpg. And then what I can do is if I have VS Code open and I have Finder open, I can just grab my handsome little image and then I could see the folder my index.html is in the sidebar there, and I can just let it go and drop it. Now, if you don't want to use VS Code to do that, you can also in Finder say new Finder window, and you can find the folder where you're keeping your website. And you could just drop it from one Finder window to the other there. Like you don't have to use VS Code. You just need to make sure you put the image in the same folder as your index.html. Not that deep. Just needs the index.html just needs to be able to find it in a reasonable way. And keeping it in the same folder is the least amount of work. So if I wanted to, at the top of my page, add in an image, I'm first going to start by opening a tag with that little triangle guy. And then the tag for image is img. So that's nice and easy. And image, kind of like with the BR we did earlier, that like it didn't have an opening tag and a closing tag. It's similar. Image tags are self-closing. So after I put the img, I'm hitting space, I'm putting a slash, and I'm putting a triangle. So like this is an incomplete image tag, but this is what its like wrapping structure is like. Images take their content through what's called attributes. We talked about attributes a little bit last time. Attributes are anything in my VS Code theme right now that show up in pink. So like in HTML, we add the attribute of language. In this meta tag, we add the character set attribute of UTF-8. In this link tag up here, we're adding in the attribute of href. We're telling the link where it should go. And then we're giving it equal sign and quotes. And inside those quotes, we put the location. Very similarly in images, we have the src attribute. We're saying where the image is coming from. It is the source. So attributes are always whatever the attribute name is. It'll show up in pink, an equal sign, and quotes. And then we're putting the value of that attribute inside the quotes. So in this case, I want to use this rollerblades.jpg file as my image. So a nice easy thing I can do is in VS Code, I can control click on it or right click on it from the, can I right click on it? No, I can control click on it. And if it opens in there, you can just close the tab. So I'm going to control click on it and then I'm going to say copy relative path, because you know what that does? It saves me typing and it saves me from spelling it wrong and it not showing up. So I can hit Command V and then it will put the file name in there for me and I don't have to worry about spelling it correctly. So that looks like it went well. It turned light blue, showing that it is a valid attribute. And I actually have to add one more attribute. Images are required to have two, the src attribute and the alt attribute. The alt attribute comes with a design question you have to ask yourself. And that question is, if this image did not load when somebody accessed the web page, or if the person couldn't see the web page and they were having the content read to them, would this image be critical to their understanding of the content? It's the question of, is this a decorative image or is it a meaningful image? Extreme cases of those, one would be a decorative image, would be like if you had like a little swirly line between paragraphs. You don't need anyone to know the swirly lines there if they can't even see the page. You wouldn't be like telling your friend what was on a page. It'd be like, oh, and then there's a swirly line. Like they don't give a damn. In that case, if it was decorative, you would put alt equal sign quotes, and you would actually just put a space in that quotes. Because for somebody who didn't have the image show up when the page loaded, or somebody who's using a screen reader, we don't actually need them to get like weird random text saying something about the image. We can just skip it. It's all good. But if we determine the contents are really important, like let's say you had an informational page and it was showing a chart that like could not be created in the web page like as a real chart. It's just a photo of it. Your alt text, you would need to explain what you're supposed to be taking away from the chart. So that way, if somebody can't see it, they're still getting that content. Another example, which is actually a little bit different, is if you have a logo. Logos are, in general, you don't want to do images of text. The one exception to that is logos. It's totally fine to do that, but you need to give it alt text that makes sense for what it is. So like the case that comes up in my mind the most is if you have a logo in the top left corner of your site that links back to your homepage, which is a very common pattern used on the web, you are going to go one of two paths. One is you would replicate the text exactly how it appears in the image. So like I work for Travelers on our travelers.com website. The alt text on the logo is either Travelers or it is home, because another argument people make is, oh, if that image is a navigation item and it's going to the homepage, you should be saying where it's going if somebody cannot see it and they're having it read back to them. In this case, though, this is actually a scenario where there is a lot of debate around it, and it's really going to be more up to you as a person determining the user experience on whether or not this image is critical. I would be of the belief that just because it's like a random out of context photo of somebody putting rollerblades on, that probably it's decorative and that I can just leave the alt text blank. If I left the alt, if I felt it was decorative and I just left the alt tag off completely, that would be bad, because what it would do is it would hit the image and the screen reader by default will read the file name if you don't give it the alt tag. So you really want to make sure you give it the alt tag, the alt attribute. So in this case, I'm going to say this is decorative and I'm going to leave it alone. And I'm also going to leave a note to myself in the form of an HTML comment, so I don't look at this later and think I forgot to put the alt text there. And in HTML, you can leave comments by utilizing an HTML comment. And the syntax for that's kind of funky. So you do a little caret, you do an exclamation point, you do 2 dashes. And you'll see it added the part you put at the end for me, which is just 2 dashes and another arrow. And I can say alt text is blank because image is decorative. So I'm just leaving that note for myself so I don't get confused later. Or like, if I'm like, what was she thinking? Now that's really hard to see in my current theme, I think. Let me see if I can get it to show up here when I look at it. Can I make it easier to see? Oh, what's this? What the heck is this thing? I don't know. How does it hide it? Here, let me try something else. It also is still kind of hard to see here, but it like dims it out. I can see it, but it's not, it's like in here, it's in like green, and in my theme back there, it's like purple. But it just like lets me write stuff to myself. It changes the color of it to be dimmer because it's not actually anything that's going to show up in the DOM at all. It's not going to be visible in the browser. It's just like a place to take notes to yourself. Now, a quick shortcut you can use to do a comment in VS Code, and it will like auto detect the language you're using and do the correct syntax for the comment. It's like if I had just written this here without that wrapping it, I believe I can highlight what I wish to comment. And if I do command and then the key with the question mark on it immediately next to shift, and that will, oh, that'll come out the whole line, but I can then just grab my actual image syntax and paste it outside of it. So if you're ever like, I don't remember what it is, command slash will also make an HTML comment for you. So in this case, I got my image and I have my 2 required attributes of src with a path to my image. If my image was in a folder, I would have to write the folder name and put a slash before the image, because that src is looking for a path. So you're telling it where it needs to go to find the image. So if it has to go in a folder, you have to give it the folder name. If I had to go backwards to find the folder, I'd have to put a slash first, because that's how you're telling the computer. Slash means you have to go back a level. Yes. So if you do the control click and say copy relative path, it will add the folder and the slashes and the path for you, which is why I like using it. For our intents and purposes with our site, especially if you don't have that many images, you might just drop them in the root, in which case you just put the file name. The root means like the folder that the website starts at. If you find you have a lot of images and you need help keeping them organized, you can make folders and put them in, but you're just going to need to make sure your paths refer back to the folders correctly. Okay, does that make sense about images? Anyone have any other questions about them? And then like something I like to do too is in that little tool I'm using to show you guys how the browser thinks about stuff. I have the option here to look at graphics and images. And like right now you'll see where it says Andy output showing what a screen reader would do if it hit that image. See, it just says nothing because it just wouldn't read that image out at all. While like if I put something here, I put something here and I clicked on graphics for Gandy. It'll now say person putting on roller skates. And also this tool will like tell me if I had images that I forgot to do it on, which is cool. I don't actually want that. Oh, and the other thing to remember about alt text is it's encouraged to try to keep alt text. I think it's 50 characters or less. You don't want to make it too insanely long. And you don't want it to be like way too short either. The level of descriptiveness your alt text has a lot to do with your intended user experience. And the only person you can really decide what the right thing is for the situation, like there's no hard, fast rule of what path you should take, whether it's decorative or meaningful, whether it should be really long and descriptive or like what you actually say in the alt text. The best person to figure that out is you as the designer and what you want the user to actually take away from it. So in this case, I don't want them to get interrupted with person putting on rollerblades before it actually gets to my page content. That makes sense? Cool. So I have now my page, I have an image and I have some text and I have some information about ranks and skate parks and trails. And now I think I'd really like to add a map that kind of shows the places I'm talking about on my site. I thought that would be cool to put on my homepage. And so something that I have in the past leveraged to do this is in Google Drive, if you hit new and you hit more, an option for something called Google My Maps will emerge. And if you click on that, it will take you into a tool that looks like this. And basically what it does is it lets you make your own little custom map, and then you can embed it into a website if you would like to. So I'm gonna kind of zoom in here to our more local area, and I'm gonna start making a list of stuff. So I'm gonna do rinks as my first list of items. And then I'm gonna start dropping some map points. And I can actually search for locations too. And so I'll say I want to add skate time to my maps. That's a rink in the area. I didn't mean to add that one. I want to add Hyde Park roller magic. Now, mind you, you guys are not required to use a map. You can do an embed of whatever you like or not use embeds at all. I just find people enjoy using them a lot of the time. I don't know why that one is there, so I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to put wooden wheel. Say have a roller rink. And then I can also open up my base map and choose the kind of map I want it to be, like what colors it has. There's definitely like options to customize it more. You can look into that if that's something you're planning on using and something you're excited about. Feel free. So there's my map of roller rinks. But if I wanted to add it into my actual site, I can hit this 3 dots up here and I'm going to say embed on my site. Oh, I need to edit my sharing settings. Click the share button to allow others to view it. Boop, boop, boop. Share. Am I going crazy? There it is, share. Anyone with the link can view. You need to make sure you have your share settings configured for that. Close, and then I can go up here and say embed on my site. And now it's going to give me and a lot of times site embeds will come in something called an iframe tag. You don't need to worry about too much. Generally, all you really need to know about embeds is if a tool offers it, you can make a thing. You look for the embed on my site option, and it should give you a little piece of code that looks like this. It might look a little different. It might have like script tags in it. That's all fine. They all work a little differently. But then you can go onto your page, paste the code it gave you, save it, and then you can go to your site and we can refresh the page. And then my map showed up, and it's like actually interactive, and I can like go around on it and like click on the map points and stuff. So if you're doing something very location based in your project, that could be a cool option for you. Definitely worth exploring. You might have YouTube videos you want to embed. They usually have an embed link underneath them. I've seen some people embed Spotify playlists in meaningful ways in the past. There's a wide world of options with embeds out there. If you want to do a form, the way I recommend doing it is using Google Forms, and then there's a little extension in Google Forms you can add that'll give you embed code for the forms fields. So you have options there. If you have an idea for something like more interactive than just static content, and you're like, oh, I wonder if I can do this in embed, like let's talk about it because I might be able to point you in the right direction. Or if you have an idea, you can, even though like we're kind of limited to just kind of like really elementary web design stuff and web development stuff, I find embeds can bring a lot more like rich content into your site. Okay, how are we feeling? Now I've been talking for an hour. Feeling okay? Are we feeling crispy? Do you want to take a break before I go into linking pages together? Because I think it might melt your brains a little bit. All right, cool. I'm gonna pause the recording. I'm gonna find the recording. I might walk around, see how everyone's doing. Okay, great. All right, so the last thing we're gonna talk about today is having multiple HTML files that make up a website that has multiple pages and how to link them together. So in the case here, like remember last time we set up like a really like sample navigation just to like see how the links worked and how that they would like light up colors when I hovered on them and stuff. But now I'm gonna, like right now, if I click on them, they don't actually do anything, but I want to like make them actually work. So the way that I would do this is I would look at my sitemap as a starting point, and that would determine what pages I need in my navigation. So in my sitemap, I have a home page, I have an about page, or I have a skate parks page, a rinks page, and a trails page. And so what I'm going to do is in my nav, I'm going to have 4 link elements set up. Remember, link is A, and A stands for anchor. And that's because back in the day, when they first came up with the link tag, that was when websites were not multiple pages, and they would navigate around by adding what are called IDs onto parts of the page that you can scroll down to, which is still a thing you can do. But most people don't use it as much as linking to other pages. So for my home page, because everyone's home page is the same file name, it's going to be index.html is going to be what goes in the href. Because what we're going to do is kind of like when we were linking that image earlier, we're going to have HTML files in our directory that have other names besides index.html. And that index.html is going to be home. Now later, I might refactor this after I've designed my site to be like a logo that goes in the top left and have my other 3 links be in the top right. Like that's probably what I'm going to do. It's a more normal pattern. It's what a lot of people are used to. But for now, I'm just going to lob them all into a list, a navigation element together all in a row. But I probably won't have a home link in my navigation. Like if I was designing this, I would not explicitly have a link that just says home. So I'd link the logo to home. Then next, I'll leave these blank for now. I'm just gonna put the words in. So I'm gonna say rinks. I'm gonna say skate parks. And I'm gonna say trails. And what goes between the A and the /A is the text you want to represent that page on the screen. So I've put those words in. I'm gonna refresh my page after saving, and now I have home, rinks, skate parks, trails. I might also, I don't know if this will work, but let me try it. I'd also be able to just put the H1 inside of a link. And I might do. Wow, that's crazy. But I could put the name of my site, and that's fine for now, and I can fix the styling later. So like I have like my site name and then the other pages. So I got rinks, skate parks, trails, but now, right now, if I click on these, they don't go anywhere. If I click on this, it'll like just refresh the page because I'm already on the page it links to. But now I want to do these pages. So to do that, I'm going to Command A all my content in my file and copy it to my pasteboard. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say new file. I can also do this from file in the menu bar at the top if you like that better, because there's like weird little icons in VS Code. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make rinks.html. Your interior pages, you can name them whatever you want, but please know that whatever you name them is going to go in the address bar of your browser. So they should not have any capital letters in them. They should not have any symbols other than dashes or underscores. Because if you start putting funny stuff in it, it'll start behaving in weird ways. So we want to make sure it behaves consistently across all operating systems and browsers, no matter how they're configured. So we're just going to keep it all lowercase and try to keep relatively short. So if someone has to type it in, it's okay. Yes. Huh? When I hover on the like folder for my site, this little paper icon will show up and that's new file. That's what you want. But you can also do it from the top, like where you have like the little Apple symbol and code. You can do file, new file, and that will work too. They work the same exact way. So I copied all the content from my index.html pasteboard before I did this. So now I can just Command V and it will put all my content there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase everything out of the main element because my header and footer is actually going to be the same on every page. So now I got like kind of like a little template for my site that I can use. But I'm going to have to go back and copy and paste my nav across all my pages at the end when I'm done setting it up. So this is going to be rinks.html. And then I'm actually going to do all of them now so I don't have to go and edit a million nav elements. Skateparks.html and trails.html. Okay. And then I'm going to copy that page content and I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call it skateparks.html. I'm going to paste my content there. I'm going to make a new file again. I'm going to call it trails.com. What the heck? My brain's broken. And I'm going to paste my content. And then because of my homepage, I didn't have all my pages in my navigation. I still have to go back and go to index.html and replace the nav with the updated nav. And then I need to make sure I go back through and save all those. See how they all have dots next to their names? It's because they're not saved. And so I'm going to go and save them. Okay, great. So now all my pages are saved. I can refresh my page. And now when I click on the links, they will go to a different page. And to better demonstrate that, I'm going to make H2s that have the name of the page on it. Because all my pages have different content in their mains. That's why I have different pages. Okay. So now when I go between them, I have different content on every page. And I should from any page be able to get to any page. And that's my nav. My nav on all my pages should have the HTML files in the href and the names in the href as well. And that should make my navigation work. That reminds me, I only went over interior links so far. There's actually one other kind of link that you might end up having, which is like if you're linking to a website that's not your website, you're going to approach setting up your link a little bit differently. So like if I wanted to make a link on my rinks page to the skate time website, I would do my A tag my /A tag, I want to say skate time, and then I'm gonna say opens in a new tab. But the way I configure my attributes on that link are going to be a little bit different than what I do in my navigation, because these are what are these ones up here. They're what are called interior links, links that are within the same website. If your link is going somewhere else, there's a couple things you need to do. The first thing you need to do is in the name of that link, you need to include the context to the user that they are going to go to another tab in their browser if they activate that link. So you'll notice I added opens in a new tab. Typically, in real life, when we do this, oftentimes we'll have like a little icon for opens in a new tab. It'll have an accessible name of this. And then for people who are not using screen reader, they'll just see the little icons they know. But for now, I'm just going to say opens in a new tab. In my actual attribute configuration, I still have my href, that's going to be a thing, but what goes in it is a little bit different. If I want to go to a different website, so like I want to go to Skate Time, which is a really cool roller rink that's just over the mountain that way in Accord. If I want to link people to the Skate Time NY website, a very chaotic quarter of the internet, as you can see, first off, I need to make sure I get the whole link. So I pressed my arrow key to get the little HTTPS to show up. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm copying the link as it appears in the address bar in the attribute. So instead of just having an HTML file, I have the full link there. And then I also need to add one other attribute. And this link is using this attribute as well, but since I didn't add it, it's just reverting to its default behavior, which is to open in the same window. But if I wanted to go into a different window, I'm going to add another one that's target equals. And then inside of target, if I wanted to open in a new tab, I'm going to add underscore blank. Do you know why that is? Me neither. That's just what they told me it was one time many years ago, and that's just how it works. It's another example of random things people chose when they were coming up with how HTML worked. And it was like the 80s, and then they were in too deep and they can't change it, but the name doesn't really make sense, but it's what it does. I'm going to demonstrate what it does. So if I'm on my website and I'm clicking around to my own links, notice I stay in the same browser window all the time. Like it's not adding any tabs or anything like that. But if I click on this link I added target blank to, it's going to open a new tab in my Chrome window. So I now have my website still open as well as the website I linked to. And the idea there is so that if you link someone to another website, they don't like totally lose your website, like, and get kicked off of it. So it makes it so that it's easy to go back. That's the reason for that. So in general, it's a good practice for if the link is within your own website, you don't have to add anything special to it. You just put the file that you want to go to. But if you're going somewhere else, you need to paste the link from the address bar. You're going to want to add target blank, and you're going to want to provide some sort of indication in the actual link name where that link is going and what it's doing. Does that make sense? Cool. Was there anything else I wanted to go over with that? Okay, I think that is it. For the rest of class, we have some studio time. And it's opportunity if you're like a little bit behind on your wireframes or your content doc or your sitemap or your personas, like make sure you go back and get those done because it makes it easier to do everything else if you're caught up. If you missed a class, like feel free to throw your headphones on, watch back the class recording, proceed forward with what I went over today in class. It's studio time. I'm also here to answer questions. I recommend leveraging this time as much as you can, but like also if you have a class really soon after our class end time, you need to leave early, that is okay. Do what makes it work for you. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Cool. I'm gonna stop the recording.